Hi, my name is Jade and welcome to my midterm video. You'll have to excuse my hair, it's a mess. I haven't taken a shower today because we had a yard sale all weekend. So for prompt one, we're going to talk about the truth behind the myth, and I chose that most of the time a serial killer is a stranger to the victim. So I think that this is false, and I think it's important to understand that people that are still serial killers don't want to get caught. So they're going to use a lot of caution, and they're going to seek out victims that they know will be vulnerable and accessible. So if they were to go out and randomly start killing people in a rampage, it's probably more likely that they'd be caught. So their crimes really require a lot more thought and a lot of energy in picking who they're going to kill. That being said, it doesn't always mean that the victims will know the serial killer or necessarily be friends with them, but oftentimes we find that they can be acquaintances or a neighbor. We saw this with John Wayne Gacy. I watched the documentary about him, and he chose victims that were local to his neighborhood, and he could kind of identify that they were maybe starting to be a little bit more independent and maybe separated from their parents a little bit. So he knew that if they were to go missing, the police would probably not go and search for him right away, or the kids right away, because they could be mistaken for runaways. So I think that that's one part of it. And then also serial killers often have some sort of motive. So whether it's for like sexual desires, or people that kill for revenge or gaining power or money, they're going to seek out people that will kind of like fulfill that criteria and fit that mold of the person that they need to kill. So we know that serial killers aren't always strangers to the victims. Also, I wanted to just mention too, what was it on here? Oh, that we learned this term too, that the incidents of murders are actually increasing within the home. So we're more likely to see an increase in murders from like family member to family member, so domestic murders. So for whatever reason, in recent years, this is on the rise. So we know that also supports that this was a myth. And then for prompt number 2, we are talking about the misuse of media coverage. So of course we can see the pros and cons of the media coverage. I think the pros are obvious, like when they release details about a serial killer, the public can be alerted on what to look out for and take safety precautions. But we've learned a lot of incidences or events where it can be more harmful than beneficial. So I think that the media has to be careful with the details. There's a thin line in putting out appropriate amounts of information. So when they put too much information, or if it's not necessary, then we kind of risk like sensationalizing these killers or glorifying their actions. And then let's see here. I also think it gives them undue fame. Like, we learned that Jeffrey Dahmer became kind of like a celebrity within his jail cell, and he was receiving fan mail from a bunch of fans and money and all of these things that were really not, it's not like he earned them doing good things. And let's see. So I also think that the media can be insensitive to family and friends of the victims, or disrespectful to the victims. I'll just share kind of like a personal story, and it's not a serial killer story, but it is about murder. Recently I had a friend that was murdered over a pot transaction down in Houston, Texas. But he's from Oregon and he owned some farms up here and I think a couple dispensaries. Anyway, the media, so at some point the media maybe was on TikTok or something like that, but I think there was some mistake where there was a rumor that the murder was associated with the cartel, the Mexican cartel. And down in Houston, where my friend was killed, this whole like backlash came out where people were on TikTok saying that, you know, they thought maybe they knew who the killer was because based on the media's description that it was part of the cartel, they knew Mexican people. They were like name dropping these people on TikTok and Reddit and saying that they might have done it, which in fact it had nothing to do with the cartel. It was totally unrelated to the cartel. And the murderer wasn't even Mexican. But then as a result, like people were name dropping actual local people in Houston and totally like bashing them on the internet. And I'm sure that didn't feel too great when people were talking about them on the internet like that. And then on top of that, I think my friend was really portrayed as like some drug lord, you know, almost like mafia type guy because he owns some pot farms and dispensaries. And here in Oregon, everybody kind of knows somebody like that, but that owns a pot farm. And, you know, this guy was super nice. He was the best dad ever. And it was really hurtful to his ex-wife and his kid and of course his parents. So I got to see that firsthand. It was really sad. And it hurt my heart to see some people talking about my friend like that. Anyway, I'll get back to here, but I thought was another important point that we do know that media can also, how do I say this? Like, okay, so with the Gilgo Beach murders, the suspect, he actually was looking up his own cases on his phone, on his burner phone. So I think that when they put out a ton of information about an ongoing investigation, it could kind of like throw off, the police could be thrown off, or maybe like capture could be delayed because the murderer is watching what the media is putting out and he could maybe like evade the police. And then on that, you know, like the other side of the coin there with the Gilgo Beach guy, I think that maybe we only know of the Gilgo 4, but it's still not known if he killed other women. And so we don't know if he gets off on that. So if he were to see this in the media and get off on that, like he likes that attention, he possibly could have killed more people. We don't know yet because that investigation's still ongoing. So I think that it's a really thin line where the media has to, you know, tread. And then lastly, it can also kind of spark hysteria. And this is kind of a lame example, but I just have to put it out there. You know, with the pandemic, we saw a lot of negative things in the media, and even just like toilet paper, things like that, where people were like going nuts and like some people were like getting in fights over like toilet paper, not here in town, I don't think, but I just remember seeing people go crazy about toilet paper and it really wasn't a big deal. So the media has the ability to really like make people go over the edge.